Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. And I'm committed. I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world. But make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did. Look, let's be clear. Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracies have grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one.
President Biden with that warning.
He's right, too.
About threats from China, though he didn't specifically mention the Chinese surveillance balloon. Joining us now.
They had those balloons floating across the U.S. when Donald Trump was president.
Yeah, one member of Congress wanted to bring a white balloon in.
Do you know they had one, and this shocks me, that floated over Florida. Donald Trump's home state in 2019. He was too weak to shoot it down.
Take a picture of me.
It makes me sad.
Florida, Texas, Hawaii. Three times. Yes, 3 times the balloons floated over
Don't mess with Texas. Donald Trump says au contraire.
Mess with us.
He lets the Chinese float balloons over the Lone Star State.
So weak. Joining us now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is at the table.
I didn't see any balloons over New York City, though.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to date myself, but when we talk about balloons, I always think of the fifth dimension. You remember the fifth dimension.
Up and away. Come on.
Yes, and put it away.
Just throwing that out.
Wow,
My beautiful balloon. My beautiful balloon.
That's right.
Oh, my God.
We're all dating ourselves.
I mean, by the way, how ridiculous the hypocrisy, though, that balloons under Trump floating over Hawaii, Texas, and Florida, and these Republicans don't say a word.
Here's the confusing part, too, not to get too deep into the balloon.
Yeah.
But the criticism is, why didn't Joe Biden do anything? He's weak on China. It's like they watched half the movie and didn't make it to the end.
Yeah.
Right.
The American military shot down the balloon.
They shot down
They just
the
didn't
balloon.
want it to rain down 3 school buses on Bill
And by the way,
there's one other really important point. They wanted it to be shot down over water in the continental United States because they could recover it much better if it goes into land. If the pieces go onto land, they burn and crash. And now we are going to look. Our intelligence people are truly excited about getting to see what this balloon saw, how the balloon works. It's a real intelligence coup. And the military was great. They said we want it shot down over water, but in U.S. territorial waters. As you know, that's only 12 miles off the coast. It was 7 miles off the coast, and the Sidewinder got it.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
So we want to get to the State of the Union in a second, but I want to follow up with China. We're talking about China last segment. We're talking about the balloon now. How important is it that the U.S. sends the Secretary of State or the President of the United States to talk to Xi again? How important is it that we continue our dialogue with the Chinese, even if we disagree with them on most points?
Look, as you know, I've been a China hawk for a very long time. Long before most people were. Yeah. But the bottom line is I think the Biden administration handled it just right. Postpone it, but don't cut it off. China is still the second biggest power in the world. China is the second biggest economy. They are a military rival and threat. Talking to them never hurts. I think the Chinese feel, it was a great, they were really eager to have Blinken come because this was their step back into the world post-COVID. And by withholding it, Biden said, we mean business. And in fact, I've talked to leaders in the administration. We may do other things about China as well. But to stop talking to them does not make sense.
No.
So let's talk about the State of the Union last night, Leader. What was it like? First, we'll talk about the substance, but also just to be in the room last night. You could almost see your colleagues, Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney, veterans of the Senate, sort of rolling their eyes at the jeers from the House side among Republicans.
The contrast was...
What was it like in the room?
It was, on our side, there was excitement. I mean, people realized Biden is hitting it out of the park. And what I loved about the speech, it was true Joe Biden. The working family sitting in front of that TV said, he's talking to me. He's talking about my needs. He's talking about my hopes. He's talking about my values. I even like, there was a particular part of it that I think showed that better than anything else. Not the big macro things that we did, as important as they are to working families, but he talked about small things you usually don't hear in a State of the Union, but that really bug people. When you can't switch your cell phone company and they charge you $250, that really POs people. When you go to the hotel and they say the room's $300 and then you get the bill and it's $463.
Right.
You know, I do my Sunday press conferences on things like this, you know, and it showed just that Biden was talking to the average American, and the contrast of these guys screaming and yelling and throwing junk on the wall and not having a plan, just calling names, I think is going to serve the president so well, and it's going to serve the country well. And he didn't say we don't want to work with you. He said, help us finish the job. Right. But he stuck to his values. He stuck to what we believe in. The contrast, I think, is going to really be remembered for quite a while by anybody who watched it and even people who read about it.
So we clustered some moments together. Here's how that default thing played out. Here's President Biden, also Mike Lee's response. Take a look.
Oh, yeah.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks.
The President of the United States looked us right in the eye and mischaracterized what half the people in the chamber believe, what half the people in the chamber, according to him, want. It wasn't true. He looked a little bit confused when he pushed back on it.
I'm here right now to tell you one thing that you probably haven't ever heard from a politician. It will be my objective to phase out Social Security, to pull it up by the roots and get rid of it. Here, people who advise me politically always tell me that's dangerous, and I tell them, in that case, it's not worth my running. That's why I'm doing this, to get rid of that. Medicare and Medicaid are of the same sort and need to be pulled up.
So, Senator, you have Mike Lee, first of all, acting shocked. He says Biden looks confused. He's the one that was looked confused in his seat. Like, who's ever proposed sunsetting Social Security and Medicare? Well, first of all,
Mike Lee.
Mike Lee did. He doesn't even want to sunset it, wants to destroy it, according to that clip. And then you have the head of the Republican Senate campaign, Rick Scott, who put it in the on paper and said, here is our plan for candidates out there to run on to sunset all programs, including Social Security and Medicare, every 5 years. And they're booing reality.
Yeah. And Rick Scott ran for leader of against Mitch McConnell and got 10 votes. Right. On this platform. And it's not just him. Well, I think the Republican leadership has a plan to eliminate the deficit in 10 years. If you eliminate the deficit in 10 years, that sounds like a noble goal. There is no way you don't slash Medicare and Social Security. So this has been around the Republican right wing for a very long time. And Joe Biden was so deft. He let them walk into his trap. He rope-a-doped them. And now all of America has seen the Republican Party saying, no, we're not going to cut Social Security and Medicare. He did a service. Right. He took that evil virus, if you will, in the right wing saying cut it and sort of got rid of it. It was great.
It was incredible.
It was great. It was a wonderful moment, and it showed the deftness of this president.
So, Senator, do you think last night erased any question of whether or not President Biden is running for re-election?
Well, you know, I can't answer that. I can answer this. He cares so much about working families that he was going to give this speech, running or not, okay, that he cares about their needs and concerns, and he talked to them. And it's a unique opportunity, even for a president who has the bully pulpit, to be able to talk to an audience. I think it's not as big as the Super Bowl, but tens of millions of people. Yeah. So I believe this came from his heart, and it apart from any political calculation.
Finish the job.
Right.
Sounded
Finish
very
the job.
futuristic to me, Don Lemire.
Yeah.